What's going on, guys? Here at 11, a great day today, and today we are back to talk about some more Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. This is episode number 9, titled If I Could Take One More Step Toward You. Before I get to my thoughts though, I want to hear what you thought of this episode, so head on down to the comment section below and let me know. And while you're there, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a like on this video, subscribe if you're a fan of anime and Japanese gaming content, and you want to see plenty more Gundam content in the future. So now diving into the episode, we begin with Shaddiq proposing a contract to miorine that would see him taking ownership of Gundam Inc., with miorine remaining as president of the company. She refuses and instead challenges him to a duel. Shaddiq's stake is to revoke his newly implemented rules surrounding business startups, and miorine's is the company. With this being a team duel, Earth House need 4 other pilots alongside Suletta and Choo Choo, to which they struggle to find. Suletta asks Guel for help, but his pride and father's orders get the best of him, despite him obviously wanting to accept. The duel itself sees most of Earth House's support taken out almost straight away, along with Choo Choo struggling, making it essentially a 6v1 fight for Grassley House against Ariel. Their anti-Gundy weaponry disables Ariel's Gundy abilities temporarily, but she manages to counter the weaponry and take out most of Shaddiq's team. Coming up against Shaddiq himself, he almost takes out Ariel, but Choo Choo, with the help of the other support mobile suits, shoots Shaddiq's antenna from long range, breaking it and securing victory for Earth House. The episode ends with Guel's father pulling in from the school, Earth House celebrating their victory and thus the official creation of Gundam Inc., and miorine cutting ties with Shaddiq. After 2 actionless episodes, we are back with another duel, and this is a 6v6 one. It's a team battle, and this is the first time we've seen something like this, and it's really awesome to see. Now granted, in this situation, most of the mobile suits are pretty incapable of doing anything because you're essentially putting people in that don't really have experience in this type of field. They kind of just threw people into these support positions, and like I said, they're taken out almost instantly. So kind of what it is Ariel versus 6 mobile suits, as opposed to Ariel and a bunch of other mobile suits versus 6 mobile suits. Nonetheless, this might be my favourite duel so far, and it's not necessarily because it is a team duel. It's actually because of the battleground, the location that they have. There's kind of lots of rocky areas, and it's almost like a built-up city that's been destroyed. I found it to be an incredibly effective battleground. It doesn't feel super open, like it's open enough for everyone to move around in, but there's also a lot of objects in the way and lots of different platforms and such. I just found it to be a very interesting locale to kind of set this duel, especially when you have all these mobile suits flying around. It just created a much more interesting duel than maybe we've had in the past. Which isn't to say that all the duels that we've had so far in the series have been bad, they've all been great, but they kind of come from the actual duel itself as opposed to the location in which the duel takes place in. Whereas this episode, you kind of have the best of both, where you have an awesome duel taking place, but you also have an awesome location in which it's taking place. If I remember correctly, the last time we had a major duel in this series was against Elan 4. What I said within that episode is that I was hoping that for once, Suletta and Ariel would lose, and unfortunately they didn't. I thought that would be the one time where maybe someone would get the better of them. The same thing happens this episode. I do feel like Suletta has a lot of plot armor around her. I guess she's the main protagonist. She's not going to die. She's not going to be beaten, because then that kind of takes away miorine from her. And that's kind of the whole premise of the show, really. It's probably not going to happen. Suletta probably going to win every duel, but I will say that it's getting a little bit repetitive in that regard. Because she always pulls something out of her ass, I guess, when it comes to Ariel. It's like you think she's going to lose, and then she just pulls out this trump card, which we had no idea she had, and somehow manages to fight up against everyone. I think it does become a bit predictable in that regard. If I was to name one issue I have with the series, that is the issue. I understand that you can't have your main character lose constantly over and over again, but it'd be nice to see her kind of be knocked down a few notches from time to time to actually be beaten in a battle. And I hope that sometime in the future, preferably within this first core, that does actually happen, because then it creates some stakes in the fact that Ariel is not quite as invincible as she seems. I won't lie though, I still get chills when this kind of stuff happens and Ariel kind of steps up to the plate, if you will, and manages to fight off like 6 mobile suits. That was incredibly badass and cool, especially with like the blue aura that comes out of her, which we will get into that because it's kind of supporting another theory that I think we all have. But seeing Ariel almost defeat and then, reactivating and just cutting up all these mobile suits was so cool. Kind of reminded me of Optimus Prime in The Last Night when he's against the Furnicus Combiner, whatever it was called, and cuts all the heads off at the same time. It wasn't to the same degree, but you still had that kind of badassness, if you will, to the robot. But even outside of the action, this is a really good episode. There's a lot of great symbolism within here. Like, you could talk about the end with miorine cutting the unripe tomato and saying too little too late concerning her relationship with Shaddiq. I think that's great symbolism of her cutting him out of her life. You also have quite a lot of symbolism stuff with Guel, where he's got this open path laid out to him and he just doesn't take it, which is kind of symbolic of the fact that he's being held back by his pride and also by, like, you know, his relationship with his father. And I'm hoping that sooner rather than later, that kind of thing is going to cut ties as well, especially after this episode and the fact that he's trying to pull him out of the school. I think that's really going to put a strain on their relationship, and hopefully Guel can break free of that, because at the moment, I think that Guel has the potential to be one of the standout characters in this series. If I was to compare him to anyone, he actually reminds me a little bit of Steve Harrington from Stranger Things, where starts off as a bully, starts off as like a really unlikable character that everyone hates. Slowly over the course of the series, he's going to become the fan favorite. I think he's going to be the favorite character of most people when when all is said and done. Which, if you've seen Stranger Things, if you're involved with the Stranger Things community in any way, that is the case with that character. Everyone hated him in the first season until the end, and then going into season 2 and beyond, he has become the fan favorite character. Let's get into the theory part of things, though. The whole thing going on with Ariel, where she fully activates and she's got the kind of blue aura around her, reminds me a lot of what we saw with Eric in the prologue, where she's piloting Elfrit and you see kind of the blue on her face and all that kind of stuff. It's the exact same colour, it's the exact same shade of blue, it's pretty much the exact same thing, which further lends credence to the theory that Eric is Ariel. And I know that last time I talked about this theory, I did talk about like the whole cloning thing. Whether that is the case, I don't really know. But I think this part of the theory of Eric being incorporated into Ariel, I think it's true. I truly think at this point there is so much that kind of lends itself to that, but it's not like super obvious. It doesn't feel like they've revealed it. It just feels like the pieces are in place where you can kind of analyze things a little bit. And if you look into the series a little bit deeper, you can kind of come round to this possible theory. When do I think we will get the reveal that Eric is Ariel? I'm not really sure. I don't know how long this series is going to go on for, to be honest, because as it stands now, just based on the pacing of it, I've got to assume that it's going to be longer than this one season. Of course, we're getting a second core and all that, but with 9 episodes in out of 24 in total, and it doesn't really feel like it's kickstarted, to be honest. It doesn't feel like things have been put into place for the series to really flourish and become what it's meant to be in terms of its plot. And I would assume that by the time we get to the end of this first core, we'll have like a good idea and something will happen that's really going to kickstart the series going into the second core. But I really don't think that within that next 12 episodes of the second core, you can kind of culminate everything. I think this is going to be a multi-season series, and I do hope it is, because that way it can kind of retain this slow pace whilst still building out everything, fleshing out everything, and ultimately not rushing like the core conflict in the end. So when will we get the Eric and Ariel reveal? It could potentially be the end of the core. I could see it being like the stinger, where this kind of big reveal all comes to light, and I think that could really kind of change things, especially in terms of not only Suletta's view of a mother, but maybe like the view of the entire Benerit company. If they know that what Prosper has done is put her own daughter or her own daughter's consciousness into a mobile suit, into a Gundam, if that kind of gets out to the world, that could create a lot of controversy, and it probably could spark a war. So I could see that being at the end of the first core, they kind of reveal that. But who knows, they might even save it for the final episode of this season, and that will be like the stinger going into the next season, providing we get one. Overall, this is another solid episode that delivers on the action that we want to see, delivers on the character development we want to see as well. It's just an episode that, much like the episodes previously, has just kind of delivered on every little bit that you want, whilst pushing forward certain things, hinting at certain things. This is a slow-paced series, but it's kind of putting all the pieces methodically in place, and that's what I really like about Witch from Mercury. Before I get out of here though, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're a fan of anime and Japanese gaming. If you want to see more Witch from Mercury revision in the future, make sure you hit the notification bell so you know exactly when my reviews of each individual episode go up. After this week, we've only got 3 more weeks left, that being episode 10, 11 and 12, and then we've got like a 3-month break or whatever until we get the second core, and that'll be another 12 episodes. Above all else, I want to hear what you thought of this episode, so head on down to the comment section below and let me know. What do you think of this constant theory that's ongoing about Eric being Ariel? Do you think after this episode as well, is it kind of lending more credence to this theory? Do you think it's a very real possibility? And who do you want to see the focus shift to next in terms of characters? We've had some focus on shaddiq, we've had some focus on Elan. Do you want to see some focus maybe on Nika or Choo Choo? Personally, I kind of want to know what's going on with Nika, because there's definitely things being set up with her, and I would like to learn a lot more about her. But as always, thank you so much for tuning into mchat today, and I'll see you all in the next video.